child rearing manuals that are published by members of the Christian right, notably James Dobson and Beverly LaHaye and a number of others, advocate really sort of breaking the child's will and using with extensive use of physical punishment to really demand absolute obedience from the children. And what's really interesting is they use as their basis, their rationale for advocating this extensive use of physical punishment, the biblical sources, primarily the Old Testament, and they quote passages from Proverbs. And what's really interesting is that biblical scholars have identified that those passages from the Bible, those sections, draw primarily on Egyptian sources, have their origins in teachings of Egyptians. So when you think about it, those prescriptions for child rearing that so many people, often well-meaning people, tend to adopt are drawing on instructions of raising children that originated some 3,000 or 4,000 years ago. Of course, when you think about what kind of conceptions of the world Egyptians had 3,000 or 4,000 years ago, there probably isn't anything that we would accept in terms of about the weather or explanations for just about anything, but nevertheless many people are taking those prescriptions on how to raise their children.
The child rearing manuals that advise breaking a child's will, whether they're 18th century manuals or the recent ones by James Dobson and other right-wing, usually right-wing religious figures, really involve two instructions. First of all, break the child's will in any way you must, including using physical violence. And second, and I think this is really key, lie to the child about what you're doing. Alice Miller has a book entitled For Your Own Good, and she's really pointing to that lie. I'm hitting you, and it's a sign that I love you, and I care for you, and I'm a good parent. So the first effect, I think, of using that sort of physical punishment to break a child's will is that you interfere with the child's perceptions. Children grow up doubting their own perceptions, assuming that they need to rely on parents and other authority figures, the head of a church, the head of a nation, for some definition of reality because their own perceptions can't be trusted.